Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of Landeron and Oakwood Property TV. I'm here today on the sofa with William Maxwell from Currencies Direct, who's going to tell us all about things you need to know when it comes to moving currency between other countries into Europe or from Europe out to other countries. So William, welcome to the sofa.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for joining us. We deal with lots of clients that are moving either from the UK, the US, Canada, etc., even Scandinavian countries into the EU, and so need to change euros, and with customers that are selling and might be moving back to countries. But it's not a simple thing to do to actually just change currencies. It's not like when you take 100 quid to the airport and change it for euros when you're dealing with big amounts for properties.
This is true. You can, of course, just send your money through your bank, but that's very unlikely to be a good economical choice.
Yes, very expensive way of doing it.
Now, one of the things that isn't necessarily apparent to consumers is that, so you go to your bank and you say, okay, look, I need to have 100,000 euros in my Spanish account. How much do I need to send to make that happen? And the bank is going to be a little bit ambiguous on that because they don't honestly know exactly. They'll tell you that depends on the exchange rate at the time. Yeah. We'll charge a fee of £100 to send the money. There may be a fee when it arrives. I can tell you now there almost certainly will be a fee when it arrives. We don't know what that fee is. So we say if you send maybe 185, that should be enough or more, for example. So you've not got much clarity there. But in your minds, you send the money through the bank. And you get a £100 fee from your British bank, and then maybe a €100 fee from your receiving bank. And so you're thinking this has cost me £100 and €100, which on 100,000, percentage-wise, it's a small sum. But actually, the real cost is considerably higher than that, because the way that banks make their main profit from currency exchanges is in what's called an exchange rate margin.
Yes.
Margin is the difference between the interbank rate, this is the official rate that you would find on things like Google or looking on their financial websites, and then the actual rate. The margin is measured in a percentage, and that's where they make their money. Banks, and it varies from country to country, but can take large margins. British banks are not too unreasonable. It wouldn't be unusual for them to take 2%, which might seem like a lot, but if you compare it to a Spanish bank that may be looking at somewhere between 4 and 6%, it's a big difference. Yeah. Scandinavian banks are better. They'll probably look for margins of around 0.6%. So it varies from country to country. When you're talking about the United States, there is an added level, and Canada, there's an added level of complexity. That's not to do with exchange rate margins and charges. That's just to do with the way that the American banking system is set up.
It works differently in different states in the US as well.
Yes.
So it does not, I know from
works differently in different states.
Dealing with American clients,
and it can be quite complex in terms of just the functionality of it. So we're not talking about what's economic or not in terms of cost. It's just the way you do it can be quite complex. Some Canadian banks we've encountered insist on somebody going to their branch. So not any branch of the bank, but the branch in which you hold the account, and having to physically sign documents. I mean, they're not all like that, but that's an example. You wouldn't get that from a British bank. No, you could do it online.
We've certainly had that with American clients where, depending on what state they're in, can make a difference to the process that's needed in order to get the funds moved.
There are 50 processes in the United States, basically.
And it's interesting you mentioned about the margin, because one of the questions we get asked a lot is about if I Google what today's exchange rate is, I might get, today as we're filming, I think the euro to pound is 1.19 euros to pound. But that's not the rate you'll actually get, because the interbanks, the rates are for transferring millions at a time.
They're the rates at which banks trade with each other. So that is the official rate of exchange. Sure. However, you're not going to get that rate. Even if you're using a currency specialist, you're not going to get the interbank rate. Because if you did, well, the currency specialist in this case would not be able to function as a business.
It would be impossible.
They would be actually running that trade at a loss.
What sort of difference, and I appreciate it moves all the time, but if it was around 1.19, it is at the moment, realistically for 100, 200,000 euros, or pounds to transfer into euros, what sort of difference would there be?
If it was at 1.19, I would expect banks to be offering somewhere between 1.16 and 1.17. sometimes worse, and I would expect exchange specialists to be somewhere between 1.17 and maybe 1.18, 1.85 at a very tight margin. If it's one of these like online only, no customer service kind of setups where they can get the margins tighter. But you're never going to get the actual interbank rate.
Of course.
However, if you're dealing with a currency specialist, especially if they've got the right infrastructure, so a good currency specialist will have infrastructure with client accounts in different countries. What that means is that they're able to offer the client a guarantee that, so if the client says, right, I need 100,000 euros, how much? And then the currency specialist says, right, if you do that right now, it would be 87,523 pence.
Yeah.
But you've got a guarantee that at the other end, 100,000 exactly to the penny is what arrives in your account.
There's no hidden charges between banks.
Yeah. So they make their money on exchange rate margins as well.
Of course.
If you look at Currencies Direct as an example, so Currencies Direct was the first private currency company established in Europe. The founder was working in the financial system. He looked at the margins that major banks were making on exchanges. This is back in the 90s. Looked at the margins banks were making on exchanges. Looked at it and thought, I would be very happy with a fraction of that. And formed Currencies Direct, although of course nowadays there are plenty in the market, lots in the market. But that's the basic concept. And in his particular case, he did sell the business and is a very, very affluent man. He was indeed happy with the fraction of it that he'd set out.
Probably all would be.
No, absolutely. So that's how currency companies make their money, and they do need to make money, otherwise they can't exist.
Of course.
But what you will get with a currency company, if they've got the right infrastructure, is a level of clarity that a bank simply will not provide you with. Even when you're talking with, let's say you're talking with a branch of, I don't know, Barclays Bank or whatever in the UK, the person you're talking to does not have any control over the exchange rates that are being offered. This is all being signed off in London. Same in Spain, it's signed off in Madrid or Almeria, or depending on which bank it is. Basically, it's signed off at head office. So you're not engaging with somebody who has any real say on what you're going to get, which is why they need to be ambiguous. In addition to that, they don't know what the other side's going to charge. A good currency company will be able to give you clarity. This is exactly what this costs right now.
But that's certainly from our experience with clients buying or selling and then transferring funds back. That clarity of exactly what they're going to get makes a big difference. And also in terms of the paperwork side of things as well, because there's for buying properties and selling properties, I know one of the problems when you're using just general banks is the proof required for money laundering regulations of where funds have come from and the journey of the funds, and what we call a deal ticket, which we can take to the notary, resolves that completely. Whereas dealing with banks and individuals, it's very tough to get that right stuff.
Okay, so both the banks and the currency companies are all operating on the same laws, the anti-money laundering laws, and they're identical. But when you're dealing, especially if you're dealing with a currency company that is customer service focused, so that is, you're not just running it through an app on your phone, you're dealing with a human who you're speaking to. Especially if you take, for example, currency companies here in Spain that are embedded here, they have offices here, they have staff here, they know how it works. So you might, for example, get a currency company in the UK or a bank in the UK. They've got no idea what the notary in Ojeda, here in the Sierra Nevada, in the Alpujarra area, they've got no idea what they're going to require. Because actually, you could go to another notary in Malaga and they require
something completely different.
So local knowledge. Now, of course, you get that from estate agents like yourself because you know how your notaries work. But basically, compiling this paperwork is something anyone doing these transactions has to do. But when you're dealing with somebody who's got local knowledge, they'll know more specifics about what is needed for this particular transaction. It
certainly prevents a lot of problems.
Well, it just makes the whole process smoother. But then there are other things that people don't always realise, which is to do with trade limits. So, for example, I've sold a property here. I've got a banker's draft. I go and put it in my bank. They probably charge me for that. And then I need to send the money on to a currency company. The bank may say, if you send more than 20,000 in one block, then you have to pay a fee. Now, of course, for most people, they're going to go, I'll just have to send it in blocks. So they have to do these tranche payments. If there's a lot of money, it can be a lot of admin. But you could be saving yourself quite a large amount of money. This can be avoided with careful planning. If you're engaging with the right kind of currency company, they'll be able to advise you and basically avoid this problem. Or at least mitigate it. So it can make, you'll save money, but you also may find the process is a little bit smoother. And clearer.
That's the main thing. You want to know exactly what's happening.
Well, I mean, if you've got a house on the market here for whatever, let's just say 50,000 euros, it's 50,000 euros today, it's 50,000 euros tomorrow, but it isn't if your money is in a different currency.
Yes.
If your money is in a different currency, the house is changing in price perpetually. And there can be considerable risk associated with this as well.
Of course.
Good examples are in February of 2020, that lovely year, the pound crashed. From, I think, close to 120 down to around 1.01,
I think it got at
one
point.
It was as bad as that. It was low.
I did do a video on that, actually, and I can't remember the numbers off the top of my head.
No, nor can I. I know it was...
Do have a look for that one if you want to know the numbers.
But it was a big change. But what that meant is that for some people, they may have placed a deposit on a property, which they could afford. They could afford the property. They've spoken with the bank. They've got an idea of what the rate is. I can afford this property. Now, here's 10% on the property. Now, the property has just changed in price by 10%. In reality, it's still the same euro value, but the pound value's changed. And for some people, unfortunately, they had to walk away from those because it was no longer within their budget.
Of course, and then they lose their deposit, which is not
good for anyone.
A substantial amount.
Well, nobody's happy with that outcome. The seller doesn't want deposits. The seller wants to sell their property. The buyer doesn't want to just hand out money. They want to buy a property. The agent wants the property to be sold and both clients to be very happy. So there's not a single winner in that scenario.
And one of the things, because I know we've done this with some clients recently, is that people can actually fix a rate today so that if there are fluctuations in the currency, then they're not losing out. Potentially they don't gain if it goes the other way, but it's the security of this is the rate today, that's what I'm having. And you can also do 50-50 as well.
There's all kinds of different things that you can do. But yes, the basic concept of rate fixing is something that's available. Different currency companies can do it for different periods of time. Generally speaking, larger companies who have more capital to hand can do it for example, Currencies Direct, we can do it for up to 12 months. Which is quite a long time.
It's a very long time.
But we're a very large organisation, so we're able to essentially hedge our bets in a way that smaller companies can't. But yes, it's unusual for a property purchase to take 12 months.
No, but from a security point of view, I mean, rates are quite good historically at the moment.
So if post-2016.
If you were thinking of moving in the next 12 months, potentially you could fix your rate now for any time in the next 12 months.
Absolutely. And actually, I mean, in 2016, the pound, which was arguably overvalued and had been overvalued for a considerable period of time, it plummeted on the back of chaos, because chaos always creates uncertainty in the markets. It went too low, and now it's probably sitting roughly where it should be.
It's been hovering around there for a little while.
It's probably about right, but it has regained. It's also regained a lot. I mean, it fell last week, but for a long time it's been hovering at 110. If you think back a little way,
it's just not quite breaking that 120 mark at the moment.
It did break it very briefly. It broke it very, very briefly at the end, not last week, but the week before, just at the end. On Friday's trading, they closed just above 120, but then it went down again to 118. So but the point is that the pound has become quite an unstable currency. That instability looks like it may be here for some time.
So in essence, if someone's buying a property with a large amount of money and they want to avoid the risk of a potentially 5-10% swing on any one day, you can fix the rate now.
Well, not just on any one day. Let's say that I want to buy a property in Spain. I've made that decision, whether it be a holiday home or I'm relocating or whatever it is. I've made that decision. I haven't yet found the property. I look at my budget, what money I've got, and then I look at what I can afford within that budget, and I'm happy with what I'm looking at. I might not put a reservation down. You may. It's a very personal thing, because you could lock in an exchange rate and then find that rate is not in your favour. I mean, the way it works with us, for example, is a client the client says, I need 100,000 euros. What's it cost? And we say, right, it's going to cost them that. And the client says, okay, I want to lock that in for 2 months, or 3 months, whatever. We'll give them a quote based on the lock-in. It might not be the same as doing it all right now.
Of course.
The client then places a 10% deposit against that rate. So it's buy now, pay later. I've agreed the rate. Now, if the rate plummets, let's say I lock in a rate at, I don't know, 116, 117, yeah? And then 3 months later, and I've locked it in for more than 3 months, 3 months later the pound's at 105. Well, I'm very happy because the currency company, in this case us, is under a legal obligation to fulfill the agreement that was made. There's no way out of it. But if it was to go up to 125, it's the same the other way around. The client isn't obligated to complete the transaction, but they would forfeit their deposit if they didn't. So it depends on really how.
So it's really a case of having a chat with each individual client and work out what's the best solution for them.
Some people, I think for people who are not operating on a tight budget, i.e. they're wanting to spend 100 but they've got 200 in the bank, basically they can afford to take a risk. This might be less attractive. If you're working close to a budget, then this might be, and also personality. Some people are prepared to take risks.
Depends on your appetite risk and your desire to be involved in currency speculation.
And to be honest, I would caution against anybody who is not a professional in that field from trying to. We encounter it all the time. People wanting to play the currency markets. They're one of the most volatile markets in the world.
Yeah, definitely.
This isn't like trading on gold or something. This is an incredibly volatile market. Risks are very, very high, and it's gambling. It really is gambling, and it's gambling on something that, unless you happen to be from that world, you're unlikely to have much insight into.
So one of the other questions I get asked a lot by clients is with the proliferation now of sort of online banking, you get companies like Wise, Revolut, that you can have multiple currencies. That they kind of claim are very, very close to the rates.
They offer great rates.
But I know there can be problems when you're dealing with large amounts with those. We've certainly experienced that. So,
that doesn't surprise me. And look, I mean, they do offer some great rates. There's no doubt about it. It's to do with the kind of customer service section of the business, I suppose. Now, when you're looking at some of these companies that are essentially online only, you're doing everything just through your computer. You're not really interacting. You're interacting with a machine. Their overheads are lower because they don't have to employ as many people.
Of course,
However, you're not going to get any of the kind of specific advice. Now, for example, let's say I am sending my pension every month through one of these online providers. Every month I send £1,000. I'm getting a great rate. I can understand why you might want to continue with that. But now I've decided, I've sold my house in Spain and now I want to send the whole lot back to the UK. And I put 200 grand through this provider, and then 5 days later, I still haven't got anything. Now, this person may get quite stressed at this point.
Of course.
Now, it may well be that had they used a company like ours, it would have been the same. Because these things, occasionally they get pulled up for a compliance check. The difference is that when you're using a company that's customer service led, you can phone them up and say, what's going on? You've got your own account manager who you know by name, and you have their email, you have their phone number. You can phone them up and say, hey, John, it's Friday. I sent the money on Monday. Where is it? And then John can go and have a look and say, that got pulled aside. It's only going to be about another few days. It'll be with you next Monday. For example, puts your mind right at ease because now you know what's going on.
If you've lost that sort of money, you don't know where it is and there's no one to talk to. That's
it's in the ether. The reality is, it's not that it's been lost.
No,
and it's not. Yeah, exactly. It's not that it's been lost, but it can be very alarming. Also, when you're using a sort of technology-based system, it's prone to your errors. Prone to your own mistakes. Just could be something really minor, a slip of the finger. Something is not quite right when you're interacting with. You've not got that level of human interaction where somebody's saying, "Oh no, I think you filled this bit in wrong," because you haven't got somebody who's guiding you through it.
If you're doing it on a daily basis, then it's quite easy to tick a wrong box somewhere or press the wrong.
I mean, this is not to poo-poo what they offer. I mean, they're good. They're good companies. They offer good services, great rates.
Just being open and honest with our viewers. There are other options there and looking at the different options.
Yeah, I mean, with Currencies Direct, for example, we offer a very personal service. You will have your own account manager. In addition to that, we have a number of offices. We have a lot of staff on the ground here. I mean, a common problem that I encounter, so this is in the case of a couple that are selling a property and one of them has sadly died, frequently the man, because men usually die younger than women. The wife no longer wants to remain in Spain, wants to go back home, kids and grandkids are there. Bills are all in his name. Really, really common. Everything's in his name.
Yeah.
Everything's in his name. So just a small thing like when you're trying to set up an account with a currency company, you're going to need to, in the world of finance, it's called KYC, know your client.
Yeah.
You have to get their ID, you have to get their proof of address. You basically have to know who they are, who you're dealing with. And this individual might not have that paperwork to hand. And it's quite a distressing moment because they are recently bereaved. Yeah. When you're dealing with a company that can offer a personal level of, so for example, in this exact case, I would be able to visit the home of this individual. And even though they haven't got any bills in their name, I can say, I visited Mrs. Jones at this address, and as an employee of this company, I can state that she lives at this address. That will work as proof of address. Yeah. That will do. That will clear all of the anti-money laundering laws. That's something that only a company with a personal service is able to do. Any of these online providers are not going to fly a drone into your house and do this for you. Or it could be something small, like sometimes, and this is more with people selling, because they tend to be of a different generation than people buying, they're just not great with technology. So they need to send a picture of the passport, but they're not too sure how you do it on your phone and email.
Yeah, it's just that personal touch.
Yeah. I'll go around to the house, I'll take the picture myself. And yeah, that's all to do with a customer service-led business as opposed to an online portal, basically. Okay. But like I say, these online portals have their place. Absolutely, they have their place. If I was moving a large sum of money, I think I'd want to be dealing with somebody.
Well, certainly I know from our experience with clients, when we're using currency exchange companies, it's a far more simple process, less stressful and less hassle for everyone than certainly than the banks doing it. That's
Absolutely. And to be perfectly honest, currency companies, even those that have customer service-led operations, can still give you very good rates. It's not like you're paying through the nose for that service. No, but it's a bit of extra level of security essentially, and peace of mind. And at the end of the day, in many cases with a property transaction, we're talking about people's life savings. We're talking about the most money, is it? Yeah, exactly. It's the most money that they've ever really handled in their lives. They're only going to do it once or twice in their lives. This is a big deal for them. Yeah. It's important, and it's important they get it right. Great. Well, that's wonderful. Thanks so much for your knowledge and help. And always nice to come up to Lancaron. Beautiful spot, fantastic views. No, I quite enjoy the drive coming up. It's always nice to visit. It is. So we'll put a link in below. So if you need any help with currency transactions, either moving money into Europe or out of Europe, you can get in touch with William or with myself, and we'll be able to help you. So thanks for watching. Don't forget to click the subscribe button so that you can catch up with and the notifications to see our new videos as they come out. And if you have any questions about currency, don't hesitate to pop it in the comments below. Goodbye for now. Bye.